Every intelligent species reaches it eventually. We didn't name it at first. There was no need. It was simply the point at which progress stopped accelerating. Technologies refined instead of advancing. Civilizations stabilized. Expansion slowed, then curved inward. We called it maturity. The ceiling was invisible, but absolute. No species crossed it. Not the oldest empires, not the most aggressive conquerors, not even those who rewrote their own biology to chase transcendence. They all stopped. When humans emerged, we assumed they would stop too. They followed the familiar arc: fire, tools, industry, digital abstraction, spaceflight. Their early centuries were chaotic, violent, inefficient, exactly as expected. When they joined interstellar society, they were already brushing against the limit. Energy efficiency plateaued, computational density flattened. Their theoretical physics began to circle the same unanswered questions. We marked them as approaching maturity. Then they refused to slow down. Instead of refining, they dismantled. Instead of optimizing systems, they deliberately destabilized them. Human research groups began publishing work that ignored constraints everyone else accepted as fundamental. Their models failed constantly, so they built new ones. We warned them. The ceiling was not a challenge, it was a boundary. Crossing it had never been observed because crossing it was not possible. Humans listened politely and kept going. It was only when their data began to diverge from consensus reality that we realized something was wrong. The ceiling was not stopping them. The ceiling was not stopping them. For most of the galaxy, that sentence would have sounded absurd. The ceiling was not a theory. It was an observation repeated across millions of civilizations and uncounted millennia. Every species reached a point where advancement slowed, then stabilized. Expansion curved inward. Innovation became refinement. We believed this was fairness. Humans reached that point like everyone else. Their energy efficiency flattened. Their computational growth slowed. Their models began repeating known solutions. By every indicator, they had arrived at the same invisible boundary that shaped us all. And then their data diverged. Human instruments began returning values that contradicted accepted constants. Their simulations produced stable outcomes our own systems rejected as mathematically impossible. Where we saw error and noise, they reported repeatability. Oversight committees were convened. Independent verification was ordered. Human experiments were reconstructed under controlled conditions, stripped of improvisation and excess. They failed, only when humans attempted them. That should have reassured us. Instead, it unsettled us deeply, because it meant the ceiling was not universal. It was conditional. Every civilization before humanity had adapted to the assumption that reality imposed final limits. Ethics, sciences, and cultures were built around accepting them. Progress meant learning how to endure. Humans did not share that belief. They treated constraints as provisional, failure as data, dead ends as signs of incomplete understanding rather than impassable walls. Where we stopped asking questions, they rewrote the questions themselves. We warned them again. They acknowledged the warnings, documented the risks, and continued anyway. When their first deep space experiment vanished without trace, we expected caution. They increased funding. When the second erased an entire research facility from space-time records, we demanded a halt. They asked a different question. What lies beyond the boundary? Humans went looking for the edge of the progress boundary. Humans went looking for the edge of the progress boundary. Most species flirt with dangerous curiosity briefly, then retreat. Survival teaches restraint long before extinction becomes necessary. We learn to recognize the moment when knowledge becomes too costly. Humans did not retreat. Their response fractured, as their societies always did. Governments argued. Institutions condemned the research as reckless. Entire factions labeled it suicidal, immoral, or pointless. Enough humans agreed to proceed anyway. They did not attempt to shatter reality with force. They did not build weapons or gateways designed to punch through the boundary. They built a method. Human researchers identified regions where physical law degraded instead of collapsing, places where causality hesitated, where equations behaved like approximations rather than rules, where reality itself seemed negotiable. They stepped there. The first humans who crossed did not return. No signals, no remains, no recoverable traces. The second group transmitted data. The data was incoherent, contradictory, internally inconsistent. No non-human system could parse it without failure. But it was data, and for humans that was enough. Human science accelerated again. They learned to function beyond the ceiling the way deep-sea organisms survive crushing pressure. Not by resisting it, but by changing how they existed within it. Their biology adapted, their technology followed, their assumptions dissolved. From our perspective, humanity was no longer advancing. They were departing. We attempted containment. Shared infrastructure was restricted, prohibitions were issued, collaborative frameworks were suspended. Humans complied. Then they continued independently. Their presence in interstellar affairs diminished. Their ships stopped broadcasting standardized telemetry. Their colonies grew quiet, then silent. We assumed collapse. We assumed we had finally been proven right. We were wrong. Humanity found a way out. Humanity found a way out. Civilizations usually end loudly, through war, famine, or collapse. Extinction leaves debris, ruins, and records that future species excavate and mourn. Humanity left gaps. Colonies emptied without evacuation signatures. Research stations powered down without distress calls. Human population estimates ceased aligning with observable reality. Trade routes remained intact, but unused. At first, we assumed mass extinction, but extinction leaves wreckage. Human infrastructure remained intact, but untouched. Messages ended mid-sentence. Systems continued operating for no one. Transit lanes were maintained as if departure had been scheduled, orderly, and deliberate. We searched for them. Everywhere we looked, we found evidence not of destruction, but of transition. Technologies designed to function temporarily. Frameworks meant to be abandoned. Tools that only made sense if their creators never intended to return. It became clear, far too late, that humans never planned to remain part of our continuum. The ceiling had not been a barrier to them. It had been a warning, a signal that a system was finite. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. They did not dominate it. They did not reshape it in their image. They exited it, and in doing so, they revealed a truth every advanced civilization had spent millions of years denying. The universe does not reward stability forever. It rewards those willing to leave it behind. And now, every species approaching the ceiling understands what it truly is. Not an end, a choice. The last chance to turn back.